Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Sunday. What is this? August. Jesus, we're already through August. August 31. Oh, yeah. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. I'm waking up, getting my coffee on. I'm trying to burn time. The store don't open until about 9 on Sunday. So, I gotta go. I gotta go to O'Reilly's because I have this brainiac idea. I have all of these tools. The problem is that I used to have a kit specifically designed for oil changes, and that way I had everything I needed all in one little box to do the oil change on my truck. That way I wasn't running around, going through the socket set. I just buy the damn ratchet and that size socket for the plug, put it in the box. Where's my list? Yeah, I had all this stuff and it was in a box in the backseat of the truck. Well, since the move 2 years ago, the last time I did the oil change was last year, because synthetic, and I don't drive very far with this truck. You need my drain pan was always in the garage, or I'd bring it with me to wherever it is I need to do my oil change. The filter wrench, I have several sizes because every truck is at a different size filter. And if you get the great big one that ratchets back, that's for the great big wicks that goes on like a, if you do the right one, like 2007 generation of truck, Ram. And I use Wix filters because but the socket and the ratchet, and you can also do a 5/8 or like 5/8 or 15/16, depending on what the wrench and a small hammer. So as long as you got the thing and you can tap it to get it loose, it shouldn't be that tight. Just saying. A funnel, usually kept brake fluid, power steering fluid, and paper towels in this little box. Yeah, it's the basic tools for an oil change. So anyway, I'm gonna put a box together and do the oil change on the truck, and the box is gonna go in the back seat of the truck. I have those little pocket things underneath on the floorboards where it's got a little thing. There's a little stash area. Yeah, set it up in there and have a little tote and keep it in there. So anyway, Christmas jammies. Yeah, we're fashion hazard this morning. But anyway, hope everybody had a great week. Yesterday morning I ran across that video and I had a few choice words. Now here is the reason why narcissism in the medical field kind of enmesh. And here's the stuff that medical practitioners are ignorant to. And y'all need to start talking to your constituents in the psychology field and, various other arenas, because there's specialties out there. And I'm going to get into detail with this in a minute. Y'all walking around blinders on. And your patients are suffering for it. So, one of the things that victims of narcissism have demonstrated, pretty much, they all have some form or severity of most of this stuff. They got brain fog, depression, anxiety, their hypothalamus, amygdala, thyroid, and parasympathetic nervous system is jacked up. They're being misdiagnosed with mental illness when it is in fact the result of abuse. Cortisol is through the roof, and practitioners are not listening to their patients. Now, I had, in fact, divulged a lot of this information. It's like, yeah, I dealt with this, and this. And since then, I have experienced this, and this. And because I went out on my own and started studying all of these different issues that I've had, and it's prolonged. It's not like it onset and then it's gone in like 3 months. No, it takes work. And I can honestly say that my primary cares and even, my therapist, they were listening, but they didn't have a solution or how to express to a practitioner, I need this, and this. So I've put a lot of the stuff like, I know my thyroid is messed up from that. A lot of abuse victims and or survivors, they still struggle with, some of them still struggle with substance abuse, but they're functional. And a lot of them are doing the substances just so they don't have to take the pharmaceutical. Guilty. I'd rather do 3 to 5 beers after work every day than be a slave to a pharmaceutical for the rest of my fucking life, because the pharmaceuticals don't work. I did them in the military. I had 2 prescriptions. I had to take them at bedtime, and it was basically just so I could sleep, because I had an asset of a platoon sergeant that would text me in the middle of the fucking night and wake me up. And if I turned the volume down on my phone, I wouldn't be able to hear my alarm to wake up. So, back in the day, before you could download an app that overrode your notifications. So I can shut my phone ringer off. I can shut my text message, notifications off. And now I have this app where I have an alarm clock that'll wake me up. So if I get phone calls or notifications or some shit while I'm sleeping, I don't fucking hear them. But my alarm will go off. Yeah. And it's loud. Stupid loud. Anyway. I can still play my YouTube to lull me to sleep, listen to my Wi-Files and sleep to it, and the alarm will still go off and override. It will dampen the YouTube, and then I wake up. People of narcissistic abuse have dealt with so much varying degrees of health anomalies. Kidneys are affected. Adrenal glands with the cortisol and the adrenaline competing against each other affected. Thyroid and parathyroid working overtime trying to fight the cortisol. A lot of stress causes the insulin to become imbalanced. It affects your entire body. That is the point I'm making. And there's a lot of practitioners out there who have not studied or encountered, or the curiosity of this whole encompassing issue has not ran across their desk or intrigued them enough to look into it and be like, I bet you anything she's abused. This is, she was healthy a year ago. Something's going on. Why does she go from perfectly fucking healthy to this, and this coming on? Like, there's my GYN, when I went to see her, she had prescribed me stuff that I had actually taken. She was trying to get my menopause in check, right? And that was another factor in why I was kind of kookadoo. But anyway, I literally, after I had taken it for a little bit, I expressed the fact that I gained weight on it, and I did not like that side effect, so I stopped taking this stuff. Anyway, it was probably 8-10 months later. I look up in the cupboard, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? I didn't even remember taking it. I couldn't even remember having been prescribed that. That's how fucking out of it I was. It's scary that your brain is that fucked after one of those relationships that you can't even remember that you were prescribed a prescription drug and you were taking it and you didn't like the effects. It was like, oh, yeah, that's bad. So, medical institutions and practitioners and people need to, they need to broaden their perspective, like, if a practitioner, I know they're required to do this continuing ed shit in order to update their, licensure. They need to start delving into something that is not within their scope. Like, someone needs to come up with a continuing education class through the psychology and therapists arena and mandate all practitioners do that course as part of their continuing ed for research, so that they are aware. And they need to be required to actually attend the seminar, and they need to be tested on it. To see if they got anything out of it. There's a little term that we used to use in the military. It was called check the block. And there was a lot of erroneous, dumb stuff that we had to do. Annually, monthly, crap like that. It was like busy work, and it was mental. And most of us were like, why? We just did this. So some of us, really talented techie people who knew how to work with Photoshop, not naming names, started taking matters into our own hands because it got ridiculous, especially where I was over there. Well, it got ridiculous only on the fact that the personnel was changing hands so much, and the preceding authority wasn't transferring all of the data to the new person. And so we had to reproduce it again. And they wanted the updated one. So we were having to take these courses over and over and over and over and over. Not like we didn't have everything, other shit to do. Honest to God. Yeah, mental. Right? So, yeah. Techie skills employed. Check the block. As long as they see the certificate, oh yeah, you're good, check. They didn't go into the system to see if you actually took the course again. Checking the block. Absolutely mental. And that is almost the way the medical system in the United States works. You need to redo your certification for your licensure or whatever, because you have to do X number of continuing education hours in order to research. The authorities or the powers that be are not looking into this person's continuing ed. So, for example, I was a dental laboratory technician. I wasn't going into I had thought about going into patient care, but I had to go to school and whatnot. But we had continuing ed where we had a periodontist come in and he had discussed all of the epidemiology and the pathology and, yada yada in regards to, persons with periodontal conditions and also the after effects, that depending on the severity and, the practice of hygiene and whatnot, the bacterium in that particular oral condition can cause endocarditis and is a facilitator to, cardiac condition. That kind of thing. Everybody was in there. Our DTAs, our endodontists, our prosthodontists, our oral surgeons, the assistants to the DTAs and or, the general practitioners of, general dentistry. We had, varying. We had a lot of specialists. Our specialists were the shit. Except for that one asshat. He needed to, and we were glad to get rid of him. Anyway, and even our supply people were in there to understand what kind of product they were going to need to look for in all of these, government supply catalogs to facilitate the periodontist that we had in order to, maintain, patient care, because in the military we got a lot of nasty jowls in there. Anyway, we did a lot of work on people and we made a lot of people happy and helped a lot of people out. But part of that continuing ed, we did it every 3 months. Everybody get 4 courses out of a 12-month period. And the dentists are required to do it. Medical practitioners are required to do it. And even DTAs, for their research, they're required X number of hours of continuing ed. So I'm in there not requiring this education, but I'm getting it anyway. And the periodontist had said something that it has always struck home with me, that because the institution in itself is ever evolving, that if he practiced dentistry the way he was taught 20 years when he first got out of school, he could be sued for malpractice. Yes. This was back in the 90s. I was young, cute, and ambitious. Anyway, so I sat there and I listened and, I was, paying attention. And the reason why they wanted me to be in there is because when I was 23 years old in this field of work, I had great oral hygiene. I took care of my teeth, whatever, the best of my ability. I was in the dental field, so I was getting cleanings every 3 months. They were doing me in quadrants, right? And that is because they had diagnosed me with periodontal disease onset when I was very young. Then when I got pregnant, it got worse. And, it's been everything in my power to try to maintain, my teeth. But the experience of being in the dental field has made me grossly scared to death of practitioners because of my experiences in there. So I try to maintain my teeth myself. A lot of my medical care has gone by the wayside when I expressed to the one doctor that I feel as though my entire metabolic system has been affected from the hypothalamus, the amygdala, the thyroid, and my adrenals. My whole endocrine system is fucked up from this past relationship because it traumatized me so bad that she literally just scoffed it off. And when I requested testing, she refused it. That's what got her fired, right? Because she's not listening. And of course, I didn't do a lot of the therapy through the military because we tried that once and it didn't work, and they didn't really do anything to help me. And it was a waste of my time, and I was having to drive, X 50 plus miles in order to talk to somebody for an hour and not feel as though I got anything accomplished. That kind of thing. So it was like, yeah, it's easier to just do online and start reading books. So I got this new practitioner. She's awesome. She's a nurse practitioner. Completely different intellect up there. Listened to what I said and took into consideration and did do the testing. And lo and behold, now we're watching my thyroid to see if it is, with whatever I do for supplements and whatnot, is going to put it back in check, or is it going to get worse? So now it's going to be a requirement. Every time I go in there, it's going to have to get tested because it did come up with positive antibodies. And if they go any higher, we're going to have a problem. The medical system has become a very expensive sham in some degrees. And it's not just against the patients. It's against practitioners too. The practitioners are getting screwed. The people who have their hearts in the right place, who are willing to sacrifice $500,000 for an education because it is their pursuit in life to help people and, be a factor in, people's happiness and, quality of life and well-being are literally being, rolled over by a bureaucratic system of it's just gross indecency and greed. Stuff to think about. So yeah, this video probably isn't going to get seen by a whole lot of people, but there's a lot of practitioners out there that are well aware, and they literally it's kind of like when I asked for something, she's like, that is a very extensive test. She explained it. This one did. The previous ones, they were just like, no, you don't need that. Undermine. Whereas I do need that test. Absolutely need that test. I'd rather get that test than you try to screen me, every 6 months for breast cancer. I don't have anything wrong with me. I'm fine. Y'all, that kind of thing. They won't do the blood work. They'd rather rape my insurance with bills, paying for a product. And it's VA. The shit, and my insurance only pays them $700 and they want $1,400. They'll take the $700. They don't care. I'm not responsible for the other half. Hello. My ghost is walking around in a second. Yeah. Anyway. You get my point now. Yeah. I think a lot of them, they're intimidated. Their hands are tied. Some of them are just collecting a paycheck because they no longer care and they got student loans to pay. And that is where the disconnect is. Our psychology and our medical fields need to join forces and try to fix this shit, because it is my firm belief that 90% of what is going on with some of these cancer patients and these chronic disease issues is literally a combination of a mental breakdown, psychological stress, and improper nutrition and or diet, because the medical system and or the government got involved with identifying what is okay to eat and what is not, and 90% of what they are giving people, especially in the poverty elements, it's all junk. And it's making people sick. So if you're not in a income bracket that can afford whole food, yeah, we don't need you. That's their attitude. So yeah, let's kill them off with their food. It's a nasty way of looking at it, but it kind of like comes full circle. and a lot of people are psychologically drained, and it's causing chronic illness throughout their body, because if your brain is sick, your whole body is sick. And that's, if you've never followed Dr. Amen, I would check him out. And there's so much information out on YouTube right now, and so many practitioners, and they link all of this research in the thing. Now, some of this research you have to pay for. Some of it you can find it because it's free. JAMA, J-A-C-C, Yeah. So is high cholesterol a factor of, psychological issues? Could be. More genetic than anything. More individualized. I don't think there's a threshold for it. I think that if it gets too high, you probably have, physical ailments. Your body can't metabolize, yada yada. But yeah, is it psychologically rooted? I don't know. I just know mine's been high my whole life. And I was a breech birth that almost died, and probably, very neurodivergent in one way, shape, or form. It gives me the capacity to sit here and talk to myself on camera. Yeah, it's probably something a little twisted up there. But, you know what? I talk about things that are completely outside of my occupation. Because I've gone and educated myself in various arenas, thirsting for knowledge, and just, I want to know. Because I'm curious. Is this related to that? Because I like the pattern recognition. I like to know the answers to things. I don't like going through life with fucking blinders on and just taking somebody's word for it, because I have been raised and grown up in an environment where I can't trust nobody. Now you know where it all comes from. So yeah, if your medical practitioner dismisses your concerns, yeah, find a new practitioner. But that person is probably burned out, and they're not going above and beyond. They're going through the motions until their debts are paid. And that's truly sad. That's the type of medical system we are currently living in right now. Take it for what it's worth. But everybody, have a great Sunday and Labor Day. I am going to do oil changes. I got to do one on the truck. And I don't know if I'm going to have the energy to do it on the mower. It doesn't have enough hours on it. It's just... Anyway. And get the bike ready, because I'm going to be taking a road trip here soon. So we got to make sure it's all ready, set, go, and clean. So, y'all, peace out.